everyone, and welcome to Beauty and the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to get you more patients and more profits. Now, today's guest is Dr. Lavinia Chong, and she's a second-generation board-certified plastic surgeon in private practice for the past 20 years in Newport Beach, California, where she grew up. Now, Dr. Chong lived and trained in Mexico before transferring to the Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. Boy, that's a culture shock. And then did a 5-year general surgery residency in University of California, San Diego. She then completed a 3-year residency at the University of Texas Medical Branch at Galveston Plastic Surgery. Now, Dr. Chong belongs to several medical societies and is a mega yoga enthusiast. You'll see her on her website. She knows what she's doing there. So welcome to Beauty and the Biz, Dr. Chong. It's a pleasure to have you on Beauty and the Biz.
I'm very honored to be here.
Oh, what's throwing me off is, how did you pick up an accent when you grew up in Newport Beach, but you've traveled a lot. So where did that come from?
I was born in London, so I'm actually a Cockney. My father was training at St. Bartholomew's, which is one of the London teaching hospitals. We lived there for many years, and then he decided he'd emigrate to America at a time when there was a need for recruitment of foreign medical graduates. So we spent 5 years in Philadelphia, and then we ended up in Newport Beach.
Wow, you ended up in a very nice part of the United States. Did you? And it's so nice that you came from Philadelphia to here, because then you really appreciate it. I think it would be so tough to go from California to Minnesota or to Philadelphia, just from weather,
Absolutely. My dad was a pretty sharp cookie, and he was looking for opportunities.
Good for him. And so did you always want to be a plastic surgeon like he did, or did some big moment in your life happen?
I wanted to be a flight attendant, because I was a language major in college. And I came to my father, and he says, no, our people don't do that. So I actually finished up, I finished high school early. I spent a lot of time on undergrad at UC Irvine. Then I went to UCLA for a year, dossing around in public health. And I'm like, I really am not getting this. So I went to England, and I dropped out of formal education. And so what was the call to action was I worked for about 3.5 years as a commodities broker. I sold financial futures on the London International Financial Futures Exchange. So
that's the jungle, financial jungle. I can't imagine. Did you like it?
Oh, it was great. It's a great opportunity for young people. You feel like you're really in the thick of things. This is a day before you have a lot of the computer trades, and but I worked for a company, and we made masses of money, which is great. When you're young, it's a great, very, very convivial lifestyle. But I think in the long run, you either end up retiring early and you have laryngeal nodules, or you have some other vices. So I thought I would go back, and my dad said, well, good luck to you. No one's going to take you because you're a mature student. You might go to Mexico. So I did.
Did you like it?
It was interesting, because backing on my language, I was able to pick up the translation pretty quickly, and I became one of the class scribes because I could understand the language. And so I took all the notes for the class, and I told my newly acquired husband that we would transfer back in one semester, but I had 3 semesters up there, and then I transferred back. So it was interesting.
Now, and amongst all of that going on, you also ended up having 2 kids, 1 or 2?
That was after I got into general surgery residency. I had 1 in general surgery residency and 1 in plastic surgery residency. So,
I think that's insane. I don't know how a lot of you women are doing that. I don't get it. I don't get it. How do you balance that?
Sometimes, like they say, a blind pig gets an acorn. So, you have to. Timing is never right, and a lot of the, we wanted to have children, and we fell pregnant, and that was it.
Did you get any sleep those years?
I'm a bit of an older trainer, so 5 years of general surgery was what was requisite for plastic surgery in my time. Mm-hmm. And the hours we worked were longer, because that was just what was done. So I had 2 weeks for maternity leave in general surgery for my son, and I had 3 weeks for my daughter in plastic surgery residency. So you learn to deal with what you're given.
Wow. Would you do it any differently if you could do it again?
I mean, because I was a mature student, I had a certain kind of time ticking with me because, fertility goes down after a certain age for a woman. And so, I am very lucky to have had a great husband who picked up the baby hatchlings and just took care of them after I went back to work.
Yeah, and your husband's not hard to look at either,
Thank you.
Good job there. Yeah. And he's handy with the children. You can't ask for any more than that. Yeah.
Just very good, creative, good son, best friend.
Oh, so glad to hear that. Now, did you go into private practice or did you go into academia right away? What was your trip? What was your journey to private?
Well, I'm in the sort of spring of my senior year at Galveston. I informed my father I thought I might want to come back to Orange County, and he said, "Good. Have you got a job set up?" And I go, "No, I thought I was going to come home and you were going to pay me a stipend." To which he responded, "No." So that was sort of a pivotal time when my father first came to Orange County. He was one of like 5 plastic surgeons in town, and I think at last count we're probably over 150 right now.
For
so
sure.
he was one of the old guard, and so I think in a sense he said, "Go away and see if there's anything else you like better, and make sure that this is something that you're really coming to with your eyes open." So I went off and I interviewed and I came home.
He's the old school parenting. I had that as well. I miss that. I think you really learn who you are and your pain tolerance and how much stronger you are than you think you are, Good for him.
I think it's important to know that in any kind of business and marketing, what you want and what you need are 2 different things.
Isn't it?
And you really have to have a good sense of who you are and what's going to work for you.
Right. Did you go into recon and did you try to balance both recon and cosmetic, or are you just cosmetic? What's your percentage?
For the first couple of years, I was an ER dog. I worked 3 ER panels. I took everybody who's called who would give it to me. I did maxillofacial trauma, and then I got into the workman's comp thing, and I did a bunch of hand surgery, and then I was offered a position on a managed care group, and so I became a breast cancer reconstruction surgeon, and and I was starting to see a bit of cosmetic, but I was doing mostly bread and butter, most chemosurgery repairs, some more maxillofacial bed sores, and a lot of the basic breast reductions, which I think I still love to do nowadays. But I think at the end of the day, when I had a requisite following, and I do go over and look at my database from time to time and just see who's coming in the door and what they're asking for. And after I had that critical mass, I said, okay, I'm out. I'm not going to do that anymore. So I've been 100% cosmetic for about 15 years now.
Oh, good for you. Was that a tough decision to make? Did you starve the first year or 2 to get the cosmetic?
No, not really. I've been drafting and building in the cosmetic, and then what was hardest was letting go of my breast cancer reconstruction patients, because I think in a sense, when you travel with a woman through a year of building a breast, you oftentimes see women who are my age or maybe even younger, and you have that sort of sense of empathy, and they say, hey, my life could be a lot worse. and they inspire you to get some better, more innovative solutions to their problems.
Do you think it was helpful that you were a female plastic surgeon working with these females? Because talk about an emotional journey. I mean, cosmetic patients are emotional, but in a fun way. Breast reconstruction is serious, emotional hand-holding. Did you think that helped, you being a woman?
I do. And I think it's also, I give credit to my office, because we'd have people who just sit in the chair and cry for an hour. And the thing is, after I gave them a hanky and said, yeah, I know it's a scary thing, but here's where we'll start. And we won't always get there in one thing. So I think in a sense, to have that patience and to have the staff who would hold hold the appointments longer for me. I would definitely give credit to the whole team to know that, okay, here's a breast cancer reconstruction. Sorry, I can't do the Botox today because I'm going back to the ER because I've had problems, things like that.
It's very difficult to juggle the two of them and do it well. You'll often alienate somebody there. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. So you walked away from that. I will tell you though, in California, I've been at this for a long time. Quite a few of the doctors were building ORs. At the time, workers' comp was handling breast reduction very, lucratively. And in the middle of them building out these, $6 million projects, they shut that down. Like there just wasn't the reconstructive reimbursement like there was. And I mean, boy, you know what, no matter what you're doing, there's something could blindside you, whether
Absolutely.
it be government regulations, whether it be the economy, you just never know. Have you found that to be challenging, trying to figure out what your next move is with things going on externally?
I think so. I mean, I probably would say to you, I read more. I read the news online. I try to talk to my colleagues and say, is this something specific, or is this just some bad journalism that's to make your coronary squeeze? But I think there's one thing that's certain: change is inevitable, and you're going to have to put some energy in there, and you may have to abandon old sacred cows, because you cannot do the same thing that you did at the beginning of your career. There's a whole life cycle to surgeons, to businesses, to even ideas, and so we're changing, and that's the one constant in life, and it's difficult to change for some people, but I've tried to bob and weave to keep on that.
And you have to, because a lot of the surgeons think, no, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm leaving soon anyway. I'm just going to go stay status quo. And the world will walk all over you. You can't even stay status quo. You have got to change with things. You don't have to do major, but boy, you've got to go where the patients are going, where they're going for their information, how they want to be worked with or talked to or consulted with. Things are changing quickly, aren't they? Dear Lord.
You know what? It just means that you have to dig down deeper and find some tools in your toolkit. And then, I mean, there's some things I don't do in cosmetic surgery because I just don't want to do them. But
like what?
I don't do a lot of Brazilian butt lifts, and I
knew you were going to say that. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. It's a different crowd. It's a different. Yeah. It's just a different animal. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't think, realistically, if I don't have my heart in it, I can't do a great job.
Yeah, I understand. Regarding staff, you have this AAA. What does your AAA staff stand for?
Able, available, and affable.
I love that.
They need to know what to do. They need to be on the sites, and they have to be nice, because nice is it does nothing if you don't know what you're doing.
How do you get them to do that? I am struggling with that in quite a few practices, that I don't know what the staff, I don't know. I just innately knew customer service, like be nice to people and be friendly and be enthusiastic, because I've got that down. But I just took that for granted. I thought everybody was like that. And then I go into these practices and I think you literally have the patient deterrent department working for you,
Well said. I mean, I think in a sense, my father didn't give me that knowledge, because he had one Girl Friday, he had a series of per diem scrub techs, and things were done a lot differently in the 70s and 80s. So, that was my first job, to get the office accredited when I came out of residency. And my response was, I don't know how to do that. And he replied to me, you'll learn. So,
I love your dad. Yeah.
So, I mean, I was like, okay. I think in looking for staff, I've looked for people who would be not threatening to patients, because I think when patients come in, they're nervous. They're worrying about, what's it going to look like? Who's going to look after me? How much does it cost? Do I have the trust issue? Will it be somebody I know and they're going to gossip about me? So, I mean, we've had a number of iterations, but what I'm so happy about, because like most surgeons, I hate to retrain.
Yes.
I've had pretty much got stable staff for quite a long time now,
even after COVID or before COVID.
Yeah.
Oh,
because
what's your secret?
I talk to people a lot, and I ask people, I'm like, what do you think? Do you think this is where we should be going? We have a lot of meetings, and we break it up a bit. And when I have something that's bothering me, I really talk to people up front. And I go, look, this has been creeping me out, and I would really like you to help me do this, this, and this. If can you do it? If you can do it, that's great. And if you don't want to do it, tell me why.
Nice, nice.
And it's not always being easy to be a female boss, because I've grown into that role over the years.
That's why I'm asking. Females definitely, and I don't want to pull the gender card at all, but you need to be a tough boss yet a compassionate boss. Like the women, there's a bigger balance there. Women working with women, we are harder. We are hard on each other. I don't know what that's all about, but we are. So if you can balance that, good for you. Are you really good at hiring? Do you have some secret tips for hiring the right people? Because that's half the battle, just getting the right people on there on the board.
I mean, I've gone through the typical routes. I was very lucky. Sometimes, like I say, luck has a lot more to do with ability. Because in COVID, we closed for about 6 weeks, and then we came back and we added an extra operating day because people couldn't travel, and they would look at their faces on Zoom and go like, I need something.
Yep.
So having my own office-based surgical suite, it made it very convenient and safe. And basically my per diem nurse decided to retire in July. So I put out ads on ZipRecruiter and LinkedIn and Indeed, and I got a wonderful little nurse. And then when she said this is more than I can handle, I put the ads out again. But I think it was the I would like to think it was the authenticity of the ad that I placed that people came in and said, "Yeah, that's pretty much what you asked for. And yes, I can do that."
That good for you, because people were really struggling to find nurses. That they couldn't even do surgery half the time because they didn't have enough staff. So I don't know how you did that, but that's fantastic. Let's talk about your surgical suite for a second. Had you always had that or built that out recently?
No, that was something my dad always had, and he's the original tenant in this office building. My husband is actually a very talented architect, and he's done a lot of surgical suites for my competitors in town. And they are gorgeous. And he does dentistry and veterinarian, but he knows the codes very well. And so we're a terrific cross-pollination, because he'll ask me, well, where do I need to put this? I'm like, I don't know anything about reproductive endocrinology, but I can find out. So what we have is we have a surgical suite where we have we do a low volume, and I like to think a high quality, because my direct employees are the nurses and the scrub tech. I have a cadre of anesthesiologists, MD anesthesiologists, and I do use some CRNAs. And our practice consultant is a great lady who gets everybody scheduled and put together. But we don't do any general anesthesia, so we do everything under a heavy MAC, which is primarily predicated on the fact that this is an older office building. I don't have adequate ventilation for scavenging. And if there was an issue that I needed to treat with, I would be able to have the anesthesiologist stop the propofol, wake them up in theory, and just run them down the stairwell. So I mean, it's all for patient safety. We still have a general anesthesia machine. We have all the accoutrements that the licensure requires. We have regular drills, but we find that the monitored anesthesia care allows the patients to recover a little bit quicker. For when I'm doing facelifts, I don't have a tube to stent the trachea. I don't have to worry about extubating the patients. And our rates of postoperative nausea and vomiting, although not zero, are very, very low.
Do you find that the patients like that option?
Because I mean, I think in a sense, with social media and reality TV, they see everybody going like this when they are on reversal, and mostly people wake up and they go, "Have we started?" I'm like, "No, we're done."
Right.
So it's a much more gentle transition, and then coming back up again. So.
And now, what is it called? Is it like Twilight, like a colonoscopy, or what kind of?
It's pretty much propofol. I leave it to the anesthesia providers to take care of it, but we also do put local in, and the local buffers the whatever they do in the Versed or some benzos and maybe a little bit of tiny bit of fentanyl. But it's very timely because right now with the fentanyl crisis, people are really scared about opioids. And so, I've had husbands call me up and go, "You gave my wife 10 Norco," and I'm like, "She's not going to overdose on them." But they're really terrified. And when they go, "You gave my wife Norco intraoperative," I'm like, "I gave her 25 mics."
Yeah.
But they just want to know that their wives are going to be safe. And when they know that it's just local and propofol, obviously with the Michael Jackson death, there was some controversy over propofol, but it's a wonderful medicine which is very powerfully anti-nauseogenic. It's out of the system probably in about 48 hours, and it really makes people incredibly comfortable as a sedative hypnotic.
I'm all for that. I had General and it was the worst experience. And I thought, if you want me to get up and walk out of here, don't give me General. I'm sicker than a dog. I don't know what I'm doing. Like I'm a train wreck. And I am, do you think, is that different for you? Is that a good differentiator for you in Newport Beach? Or is everybody doing that now?
I think there are increasingly more people who are doing things like my colleagues who do the light lift, where it's mostly either IV sedation or IM with some oral sedatives, because there's now a great development of things like I would call them designer drugs. MKO melts, midazolam, ketamine, and ondansetron, which is a tablet which is put underneath the patient's tongue. For small procedures, you can do that if the patient's particularly nervous, and it puts them a little bit dissociated. So, I mean, I do a lot of stuff under local because we do torcasthesia to have the staff comfort people and just say, just a little squeeze here, just a little stick and burn. And again, people love the idea that they're saving. It's safe, number one. Safety is number one. Two, that they don't have to pay for the anesthesiologist. Three, that they can participate a little bit because we do eyelid lifts under local. We do sliding brow pexies, upper lip lifts. And so these are things that are not particularly uncomfortable. And you don't have to put people to sleep.
Very nice. And I like it as a marketing edge, the patients are waking up to that. That's a pun. They're if they don't have to go under General, we've all heard the stories. That's all it takes is some celebrity story. The poor woman, that Asian author, something died in New York, and like nobody wanted to go under General. They were canceling all their surgeries. It's just nice to have that option. So good for you. Regarding staff, do you have, what's your feeling on surgical versus non-surgical? Are you just a surgeon? Do you also want to grab that patient on the way up to surgery or take them on the way down from surgery to non-surgical? What's your feeling on that?
A lot of my patients start as young mothers, and their budget and their aims are on Botox, and then maybe they'll graduate to eyelids, and then a couple of them will then go to switching out their breast implants, because they say, like, this worked for me when I was 20, but my 15-year-old son keeps saying, "Cover that up, mom." So I mean, it's the whole life cycle of a patient, and I'm happy to travel with them because I'm like, well, I keep waiting for my boobs to come in, but they're obviously not going to come in this lifetime. So we have a lot of fun, and it's like, for me, it's like I like going to work because I'm having a little gossip with my patients. I do a little Botox. I learn about trends from them too, because they'll say to me, "Well, what about this? What do you think about this?" I'm like, "I don't really know what that is." So, they are my way to kind of to filter what people are interested in learning about. You see.
Yeah. So, regarding your growth, do you want to stay small? Do you want to grow? Do you want to bring on an associate so you can slow down eventually? Do you have an exit strategy? What's your feeling? Are you going to die at the table like some surgeons, or do you have a plan to exit and still have some time to travel?
I mean, I think the thing is, my husband wants to travel, and so I'm actually actively recruiting a couple of associates. But I think I would need to have somebody who could really be able to take advantage of the accreditation and to be able to feel comfortable working in this environment, because It's small, but the thing is, it's got everything it needs for patient safety, and it's got a killer view of the ocean. So, I mean, can't you learn to accommodate? We already have the relationships with wonderful anesthesia providers. I can't always guarantee that the staff would go to a successor, but if they treat them well, who knows? I have a young staff, and the staff are very good at what they do, and they're very kind and genuine to the patients, and that's why we usually get a lot of internal referrals. We don't do a lot of advertising, but the patients just drag their friends in.
I've always said that's how you do it. You can do it the harder way, doing the one and done, throw a ton of money at advertising, wear your staff out trying to find that needle in a haystack of the 100 leads and 2 of them actually want surgery. Or you can just really change your mindset, treat that patient as somebody you're going to know for a lifetime. And you could know them for a lifetime. I am one of those patients. I'm worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to somebody, because as you get older, if you care about how you look, you're going to keep caring even a lot more as the aging process steps in and the social trends change. And all of the arrows are like, the demand is not going anywhere. It's just increasing. So I just don't see why you don't do it that way. Like, why not build a word of mouth practice? The patients love you. Talk about a consultation. How do you like doing a consultation with a complete stranger who doesn't know you from Joe Schmo versus the patient who comes from her sister, who loved her result? She showed it off to the other sister and said, oh my God, I want what she has. Isn't there the biggest difference between that?
You're definitely pre-qualified if you come from an internal referral.
Yeah.
But with telemedicine like we're doing today, I get a chance to be myself. Like yesterday, I talked to a young woman, and I asked my staff, please schedule virtual consults at the end of the day, because again, I can spend as much time with them, and they can pick my brain as much as they want to, and I can keep talking until they go zip it. But the thing is, I see in the sense of a consult, I'm not looking at my clock all the time, because my job as a consultant is to really try to give them as much of information that I think they would need to know, and they might not know the questions to do it. Mm-hmm. So I still have the same vibe with that, but the thing is, the virtual consults have been fun for me, because I'm like, I don't have to care about if I smell like I've been in the OR, which I have usually been, or if my hair is not perfect, because I'm like, what do you want to talk about today? I'll keep talking until you tell me time out.
Yeah. Regarding marketing, where are these patients coming from? Do you have a big net out to the world, or are you trying to stay local, or what's your marketing plan?
Question. I had the girls pull out procedure value hour, how long it takes me to do a case and what thing. I had them look at referral sources and how many people were doing these things, and how many conversions we had from virtual consultations versus in consults. And it used to be about 50-50, but I'm actually converting more on virtual consults now.
No kidding.
Which is crazy, but I think I am pretty much what I am. What you see is what you get, whether you're looking at me on the screen, or whether you're smelling the fact that I've been in the office and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think what we're doing is we're trying to codify it a little bit more, and that's where I think in the staff we're about ready to ramp up and bring another administrative staff, because my women have different talents. I have one woman who's extremely all about the metrics, and I think you have to, as a provider of service, look critically at what you do well. If it takes you 12 hours to do a facelift, maybe you shouldn't be doing facelifts. Mm-hmm. If you have a lot of takebacks for bleeding from breast organs, maybe you shouldn't be doing breast organs or something like that. But the thing is, we do a lot of that, and we look at it quarterly. So that's part and parcel of our marketing strategy, to see how many procedures we've done of a particular type, whether there's been any problems with complications, and that goes along hand in hand with the credentialing we have to do for the facility, and then where the new leads come from, and we track everything in that sense. So I think before we can actually go and do much further as a solo practitioner, I don't want to compromise outcomes by doing a larger volume. I would rather consider myself a bespoke tailor. I'll be more of somebody who's rather than Forever 21.
Okay. Well, and know thyself. As long as I just think it's all about you being comfortable with what you're doing and the services you're providing. And I completely agree. I would pick the procedures that you enjoy doing the most. And then if you want to look at it analytically, just pull that report that says revenues by procedure, revenues by zip code, revenues by referral source, and just make your life easier, because it's always going to be that 80-20 rule. 80% of your revenues are coming from 20% of somewhere. The secret is knowing where the somewhere is. Because a lot of times you just don't even know anymore. But you know what? They forced us into all this technology, which is so mind blowing, that they can track everything now. Every click, every little thing you're doing can be tracked. So I'm glad you have an analytical person in there, because somebody needs to want to do that.
Yeah, and she's good. She works with the website, and I mean we dabble a bit in social media, but mostly you see what I like to eat or I travel.
I was going to ask you about social media, because you're not, you can tell you're not, you're doing a little of it, that's why I know your husband. I love your husband. And the travel looks fantastic, but is it part of your plan, or you're just kind of doing it because you're supposed to do it? Or do you think it's a viable marketing channel for you?
I don't think it's our prime lead, because I think we have a different patient population. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, I asked the girls, I asked them, who is my ideal patient? I already knew the answer at that time.
And who is it?
It's usually a woman who's between 45 to about 65. And, there's a certain amount of history between us. Like I said, we've come from med spa services to doing smaller procedures and then going up there. And that's why we tend to, our two big leaders are probably eyelids, facelifts, and revisional breast, and some breast reductions. You see, because I'm not super judgmental. My father was never much of a breast man, and I like to do breasts. I like to do a lot of breast lifts and breast reductions, and just seeing how things changed and aesthetic ideals are replaced from the Anna Nicole Smith and Pamela Andersons from the late 90s, early 2000s, and now we're looking at the yoga breast, and that's my specialty. So, because the women are more like me, and I think we end up having people who like to stretch and like to. I realize they're getting older, but they're okay with that, and they just say, like, I just want to comfort my body. I just don't want to have something that I have to spend a lot of time getting dressed on. So we're a little bit more laid back in that sense. So that's why I don't really go for the Brazilian butt lifts, and I don't want to look at people's privacy.
But that demographic's amazing. Like 45 to 65 females. I love the older woman. She's more mature. She cares about your skill and certifications, and more so than did they see you online? They have the financial wherewithal oftentimes more so than the younger person. But you don't like tummy tucks?
I do, and that's my other little tiny niche one, because I do a marriage tummy tuck. So through the size of a small C-section scar, I can actually advance it a little bit more. And I do love toys, so I bought myself a Hoyas retractor, which is literally a big upper hand. And so I can go through a very small incision for people who don't have a lot of skin. They're not heavy, but they've got mostly that splay in their belly that gives them that roundness there. We can go through, detach the belly button, and then just repair it, put the belly button down, and keep the scar really small. So that's my favorite.
Wait. So they don't need that hip to hip smile line?
No. But it's all patient selection, Miss Maley. So it's if they're a big woman, that we're going to lipo the flanks. We're going to go from hip to hip. But these are the smaller ones. We had a nice lady who came and did telemedicine yesterday, and I was very relaxed, and she booked today. So wow. I said, look, I said, what bothers you? She goes, I have a depressed portion of my C-section scar. I've had 3 kids, and it makes me embarrassed. And I'm like, what have you got to be embarrassed? You have an awesome body. You've got good, even skin. You don't have any stretch marks, but you've got that little central pooch around your belly. button and it goes a little bit up there by your ribs. It's good. All you need is just to repair the muscle, pull it down a little bit, done.
If you want my 2 cents, a scarless tummy tuck, like I would write a little guidebook on it, give it away as a free PDF guide, use it as an opt-in on your webpage, the scarless tummy tuck guide, 5 things you want to know about it. I mean, if everybody who wants a tummy tuck doesn't get one because of that darn big scar. And at that point, you're not saying it's for everybody, but here, like, download this and this is how this is the perfect candidate. I would make a big deal out of that because you're in such a competitive area and a ton of women who want something done without that scar. God, I think that's I think you're onto something there.
I mean, it is because I'm small and lazy. I hate to lipo. That's why I don't do Brazilian butt lifts. But you could do, and we did one 2 weeks ago, and she just looks fantastic. And she's at the length of the scar we can control, but it's mostly like we've learned with whether it's deep plane or SMAS, it's putting the foundation on the deeper layer, and then the skin just populates over it. But if you select it and you're very honest with the patients and go like, you wouldn't be a good candidate because you have just that much more skin. But it's worked out well for me.
Oh, I love it. So we're going to wrap it up now. Give me a big challenge you had when you were growing your practice. What was the biggest challenge you had?
I think the big challenge is going from girl to woman to boss, and that is a gender specific problem, because I joined an intergenerational practice, so I still had my mom telling me like, why her breasts so big? But it was a different sort of cultural mindset, and then for being able to jump and have the courage or maybe the foolhardiness to go ahead and drop off insurance and become straight Cosmo, that was a leap of faith. But I've had a lot of good people helping me along the way. My husband, my staff, I have some good friends in town who are plastic surgeons, and general surgeons who, I talk to, and I'm like, well, what do you think this is going? But it's really to try to be fairly open-minded and to have self-knowledge, and to know what you can do and what you can do well and what you should step away from.
Right. And then is there anything in particular that you would say to anybody coming up in the industry? Any advice for them?
Yeah, don't build a Taj Mahal before you have the requisite patient base.
Yeah.
Because, there have been, in 2003, I was the program chairman for plastic surgery at Hoag. And I think I call myself mother of plastic surgeons, because I think I signed on 12 plastic surgeons in the year. And some of them are no longer here. So, I mean, this is a gorgeous place, and there's always place for you to sit down and make a little farm, but you have to be good to the patients and to your staff and to yourself and your family, because if you're cranky pants, it's going to come through, and people will like, I'm not going there because she's too possessed. So, I mean, I think you just have to know what you can. I'll tell young people, you have to sometimes eat what you kill, but you have to be able to know that you don't have to eat a lot. You have to know what your running costs are, and just not be shy to say like, that's not something that's in my experience. I would have to defer to you and to be very honest, because that's how you build a practice.
Right. How much has yoga helped you? Is that still a big part of your life?
Oh yeah, I do 4 classes a week, and
oh dear, okay.
I don't do the hot yoga like my daughter likes, because my husband goes with me, and he doesn't want to sweat and smell other people's BO. But we started after my father died because he fell. And the thing is, I used to think that yoga was important for the meditative, the sort of reflective capacities, but it's really important for balance. And it is my go-to drug instead of drinking. I'll take it out at work, because I mean, I look around, and if you ever think about it, who takes care of the plastic surgeon? Someone's going to be taking care of you, because I get so much little little vignettes and life perceptions from my yoga teachers. I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's made me very happy.
I did yoga several times and I just don't have the personality for it. I tried the hot yoga. I thought it was disgusting. Yeah, we were all like their feet are in my face. I just couldn't do that. I couldn't concentrate because it was so gross. And then I've tried the regular yoga and I don't know if I have ADD or what, but it's just too slow for me. I like to hike and like fly up hills, and I have my dog.
You've identified the thing is that you have to move. And you
Yeah.
have to work on your balance. You have to work on your strength and conditioning, because even though I like to operate, I don't like to operate on somebody because they neglected their own health. And I think it's important that people move. And I'm about ready to shoot a video for yoga, and I'm not going to go there to try to show what a hotshot I am and how I can stand on my head. But it's just important that we move as we get older, because what killed my dad was a fall, you see, and it was because he was deconditioned.
Ah,
So
yeah.
that's pretty much it. Just if you do Pilates, you do pickleball, you do golf, you hike, do something.
Well, that's why I think we who live in California, the best thing that ever happened to me, not politically here, but physically and spiritually. I came from Chicago and they were just drinking themselves and smoking themselves to death and watching 3 football games, a Sunday. And I thought, oh my God, I got to get out of here. And then I moved to California and I started jogging and like, where else can you do that where you can be outside every day? The weather permitting, it's just so much easier here to be healthy. So I really appreciate that. I got that bug the minute I moved here. I went, I am now an exerciser.
You see,
And
you're a canny woman, and the thing is, you take responsibility for your life. You know that things will change, but if you feel like you can make it, that's the existentialist challenge. Do something so you can make things better.
for sure. And do you have the cutest dog on the planet? Please tell me he's still around.
That's my brother's dog. I only have partial ownership on him, but he's a shameless scrounger. He's very cute. Yeah.
He is so funny in Instagram. He's like photogenic. What kind of dog is it?
He's an English bulldog, and believe me, he's had a lot of cosmetic surgery. He's had a quad flap, he's had a uvular palatoplasty, he's been fixed, he's had something to do with his plumbing, his male plumbing. So
Oh
I
my
don't think it was
God.
lengthening. I think it was putting the lipstick back in.
Oh, well, he's adorable. So the last question, the fun one, tell us something we don't know about you.
It's probably in the public domain. I'm a shameless Golden State Warriors fan.
I did see that somewhere. That's so funny. Yeah. Where did that come from?
Because my daughter was a water polo player at Cal Berkeley, and when she quit playing, I had to watch something. I'm like, fake, fake, shoot, drive, drive, fake, fake, shoot. So I think in a way why I love the sports part. And I used to watch the Sixers when I lived in Philadelphia, but I think it's something about the little chemistry of this team and the fact that they take their lumps. And that's what we all have to do at the end of the day. I just finished watching Underrated with Steph Curry yesterday. Oh. But it has to do is that sometimes we're not always winners. Sometimes we get to the top of the mountain and then we crash down to the bottom of the valley. But it is that idea of how you can reorganize and you can embrace your teammate or your patient or your staff member and your anesthesiologist, and you can regroup. And if it's meaningful, you can make it work. And you may never be up at the top of the mountain again, but you can do something and you have a certain amount of satisfaction there.
For sure. The analogy there, the teamwork thing. If the more I learn how to, when you add staff to your life, it's such a new concept. You didn't go to school for that. You had no leadership courses at all. And you have to learn that on the fly. The sooner you learn that it's a team, it's not them against you. It's not, so much to that. But if you can get that teamwork down, just the analogy is just like a sports team. Nobody's the big prima donna. They are for a minute, but everyone's got to be helping them. So anyway, if anybody wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do so?
Through our either by phone. We aren't on that. We aren't set up to have virtual appointments yet, so you still have to talk to a real human being. So we're at the Newport Medical Plaza. Our number is 949-644-1400, or you can visit our website at www.chongmd.com.
ChongMD.com. Your name just keeps throwing me off. You are like the United Nations, huh? You've been around. Yeah.
You know what? Being married to an Englishman, we are literally 2 days different. He's 2 days my senior, so
no kidding.
we are like twins, and we've grown up together. But thank God he keeps me grounded.
Oh, well, he's amazing. Hang on to him for sure. All right. Well, everybody, that's going to do it for us today at Beauty in the Biz. If you appreciated this, please give us a good review. That'd be so nice. And subscribe. And if you've got any questions for me, feel free to leave them on my website at CatherineMaley.com, or you can always DM me on Instagram at CatherineMaleyMBA. Thanks so much, and we'll talk again soon. The fastest way to success is to model other successful surgeons who have what you want, but you can only see their results, not the path they took to get there. So you continue to jump from one thing to another, hoping to find something that will work for you too. But it rarely does. So try this shortcut instead. It's guaranteed to move you forward. I compiled my intellectual property to grow cosmetic revenues, everything I've gleaned over the years, into one playbook of the most successful practices and what they do to win. Go to cosmeticpracticevault.com and let's grow your cosmetic revenues.